सभी साथियों को जिंदाबाद. Welcome to NAPM's Grounded Voices session and this series, which is centered around rivers and the struggles of people and communities around river basins across India. जमीनी आवाज़ों के आज के इस सत्र में आप सभी का स्वागत है. जैसे कि आप सभी जानते हैं, हमने पिछले सप्ताह जो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय नदी दिवस है, उस दिन से ये 6 सप्ताहों का एक सीरीज शुरू किया है, जिसमें हम देश भर के जो अलग अलग नदी घाटियों पर संघर्ष कर रहे वहाँ के स्थानीय समुदाय है, उनके मुद्दों के साथ साथ पर्यावरणीय पहलू से और बाकी जो पूरे नदी घाटी के नियोजन के और गवर्नेंस के सवाल है, उनको और गहराई से समझने का और जन संघर्षों की दृष्टि से भी समझने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. पिछले हफ्ते हमने 3 राज्यों से साथियों को सुना था, हिमाचल प्रदेश, उत्तराखंड और जम्मू एंड कश्मीर. और आज के इस सेशन में हम 6 अलग अलग राज्यों से और साथियों को सुनेंगे. आज के इस सत्र में जाने के पहले और आज के मॉडरेटर को शुरू करने के पहले मैं बहुत संक्षिप्त में, एंड आई विल आल्सो ट्रांसलेट वेरी ब्रीफली इनटू इंग्लिश, बहुत संक्षिप्त में आज जो अभी की खबर आई है, एक बहुत ही गंभीर घटना लखीमपुर खीरी में हुई है. हम सभी देख ही रहे हैं कि मतलब 10 महीनों से देश में इतना मजबूत किसान आंदोलन चल रहा है. 605 से ज्यादा किसान अभी तक शहीद हुए हैं. सरकार की तरफ से उन 3 किसान कानूनों को रिपील करने की दिशा में कोई पहल नहीं हुई है, मगर उल्टा किसानों पर और बर्बरता और दमन बढ़ता जा रहा है. और उसी का एक और बहुत ही घटिया और घिनौना उदाहरण आज हमने देखा कि 3 किसानों को मतलब उनके ऊपर गाड़ी चला के उनको मार दिया गया है. और इसमें सीधे सीधे जो यूनियन मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट होम है, उनके बेटे का कॉन्वॉय कहा जा रहा है, और जो डेप्यूटी सीएम भी मौजूद थे वहां पर उत्तर प्रदेश के. तो हम इसको एनएपीएम की तरफ से पूरी कड़ी निंदा भी करते हैं और मांग करते हैं कि इन्हें तत्काल उस पद से निलंबित करना चाहिए और क्रिमिनल प्रोसीडिंग्स तत्काल इनके ऊपर, इन मंत्रियों के ऊपर भी होना चाहिए. उन शहीद किसानों को सलाम देते हुए आज का हम ये सत्र को आगे बढ़ाते हैं. We salute the spirit of the farmers' struggle, and in particular the 3 more farmers who've been martyred today beyond the 605 farmers who've literally laid down their lives as part of the farmers' resistance in the past 10 years. We've all just been receiving updates of the brutal incident in Lakhimpur Kheri, where farmers were mowed down. So we express our solidarity with the families of the farmers who face this brutality and demand criminal action proceedings against the concerned ministers and their family members who are responsible for this. So with this, we begin today's session. Welcome to all the comrades who've joined us from different parts of the country and different movements. We have 6 speakers today from 6 different states. The speakers are from Uttar Pradesh, New Delhi, Assam, Manipur, Sikkim, and Arunachal Pradesh, working on various issues of water, governance, social justice and environmental rights. We welcome all of you. आज का जो संदर्भ है, the context is specifically about Ganga rivers in the Ganga and Brahmaputra basin. Like we said last time as well, I mean the issues are way too many, and we know that within a short span of 2.5 hours of discussion, we might not be able to touch upon the many dimensions, but we hope to at least look at some of or unpack some of the key aspects that that are part of the discourses in these regions. We covered 3 states last week, J&K, Uttarakhand, and Himachal Pradesh, and we'll cover the rivers in these 6 states in today's session. That is the plan. So we welcome all the speakers who are part of today's session, and the session would be moderated by Avli Verma. Avli is a young researcher and an activist. She's graduated from IIT Mumbai. She's done her MPhil in development and planning over there. And she's now for quite some time been part of Manthan, Adhyayan, Kendra in Pune, and has been working extensively on water issues, especially around researching around inland waterways and the implications that these developmental interventions would have on ecology and riverine communities. So thank you, Avli, for agreeing to moderate today's session and coordinating with the speakers. Over to you to take it forward. Also, very briefly, our session would be both in English and Hindi. हिंदी और अंग्रेजी दोनों में सत्र होगा. Speakers अपने सुविधा के अनुसार बात कर सकते हैं. The speakers are free to speak in the language of their choice, and we'll have brief summary translations after each speaker. We'll have summaries also in the chat box. बट क्योंकि हिंदी पूरा चैट बॉक्स में टाइप करना शायद थोड़ा मुश्किल होगा, इसलिए जब साथी अंग्रेजी में बोलेंगे उसका थोड़ा सा विस्तार से ओरल ट्रांसलेशन हम कर लेंगे तो अच्छा. या थैंक यू.
Thank you, Meera. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, the sound is good.
Okay. I think just to set the context, I'm speaking from Delhi at the moment. मैं इस समय दिल्ली से बात कर रही हूँ और दिल्ली में I think सितंबर में ही हमने देखा कि कैसे दिल्ली का पूरा अंतरराष्ट्रीय एयरपोर्ट उसमें पूरा पानी भर गया था 2 दिन की बारिश के बाद में. एंड एनीवे लाइक दिल्ली के अगर हम बात करें तो हम हर साल ही यमुना का एक फोमी फ्रोदी पिक्चर आता है, न्यूज़पेपर में भी काफी सर्कुलेट होता है जिसको हम देखते हैं. And anyway, like we have with us in our as part of the panel, we have Manoj Mishra sir, who can very nicely with his expertise and experience can speak about the issues concerning the river Yamuna. But the point being that this is not just the case of Yamuna. In our country, a total of 351 critically polluted stretches were reported by CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board, in 2018 in almost all states and union territories of the country. Just to very quickly translate it in Hindi, हमने जैसे मैंने बताया कि सितंबर में हमने देखा था किस तरह से अंतरराष्ट्रीय एयरपोर्ट के अंदर पानी भर गया था बारिश के बाद में. हम हर साल देखते हैं यमुना की एक तरीके से बहुत ज्यादा झाग वाली तस्वीरें, बहुत ज्यादा प्रदूषित तस्वीरें न्यूज़पेपर में सर्कुलेट होते हुए. और हमारे पास हमारे इस सेशन में मनोज मिश्रा जी हैं जो यमुना के इश्यूज पे बहुत अच्छी तरीके से अपनी एक्सपर्टीज के साथ में बात कर सकते हैं. बट पॉइंट ये है कि ये सिर्फ यमुना नदी की बात नहीं है. हमारे देश में 351 ऐसे नदी के हिस्से हैं जो गंभीर रूप से प्रदूषित हैं और ये सेंट्रल पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड की 2018 की रिपोर्ट में खुद से ये बोला गया था. एंड now more than ever in this age of uncertainty, unpredictability, we are hell-bent on capitalizing and using the maximum and getting the maximum benefits out of the rivers which would cater only to a few section or the few people of the society, meaning that not only the infrastructure is built on the rivers, but in many cases, like what I study in inland waterways, the river itself is an infrastructure. And just to give you like some context, I was part of a consultation just 2 days back in which there was an official from Sifri and he was speaking about mahasir, this fish, and he was talking about how this can be used for ecotourism. So his analogy was how when we go to the zoo and we go to watch a lion there, in similar way we can start ecotourism on rivers, and fishes can be put on exhibition for people to come and enjoy the view. And it's a very different kind of imagination of rivers, so to say, which is based on, again, like squeezing maximum benefits to a few section of the society. While in other imagination also, there are people who are dependent on the rivers, but as there's a brilliant academician Kuntala Lahiri, that she said in her essay that they imagine river as the content that we live in and as a content that we live with, rather than a resource which we can harness. So I'll just stop here and I'll just pass it on to our first speaker, who is Wangkheirakpam, who is joining us from Manipur. Ram basically Indigenous perspective Manipur के founder director है, and Nagmi Lop जो एक small scale fisheries federation है उसके भी convenor है. And over to you, Ram. I think we'll have the introductions in the chat box also, but just to translate quickly in English, he's the founder director of Indigenous Perspectives from Manipur, and he's also convener of Nagme Lop, which is a small scale fishing unions, Federation of Small Scale Fishing Unions of Loktam and Pumlin Wetland region in Manipur. Over to you, sir.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about one particular river and its system and its wetland system in Manipur. Not so much discussed at the larger national processes, but something which I think is important to understand something about what's here, but also understand about a river which we think is very critical. But also not only that, but also one of the first dams, one of those very old dams built by the National Hydroelectric Project, NHPC. So Manipur River is what a topic is, but I will be talking about people who depend on Manipur River and its wetland system. The Manipur Rivers, the two primary, main water system that flows out of the state of Manipur. One river system is the Manipur River system. So a lot of the water that goes, in Manipur, one is the river system of Manipur River system, which carries all the water, the catchment area on the valley of Manipur and all the surrounding hills. And this water goes through the Manipur River system and it goes to Burma. It flows into Myanmar and it is one of the tributaries of the river Irrawaddy, a very important river in Myanmar, and then which finally goes into Bay of Bengal. So that is one. The other is the Barak River system. The Barak River system, where we had a long protest. Barak River originates from Manipur, and the government of India wanted to build the Tipaimuk Dam, one of the very old struggles in Manipur, where we won. The dam never came up. Maybe the present government is thinking of starting it again. But this river goes partly into Assam and then it goes into Bangladesh. So the two main river system, one goes into Bangladesh, one goes into Myanmar, Burma. So the Manipur River system was the Manipur River, the main river, not the system as a whole, but the river was blocked or dam in 1983. It was commissioned, the project, the National Hydroelectric NHPC project known as the Loktak Hydroelectric Project was commissioned in May 1983. And so the dam is called the Ithai Barrage. Ithai Barrage blocked this river, and then unlike the typical dam, typical hydroelectric project that we understand, the dam is in the eastern side, and almost in the southwestern side is the turbines, is the project, the main project where the electricity is being generated. The thing is, so the river, which is supposed, the water is supposed that's supposed to flow into Burma, Myanmar, is being sent to Bangladesh. So that's the idea. So it's a very interesting arrangement that they have done. This is not a big dam. It's not even a dam. It's just a barrage. There are 3 doors. You can pull it up. In fact, today's report says that one of the door of the barrage has some problem, so the water is flowing out. And yesterday and today, Jairam Ramesh from the Congress was visiting. They wanted to meet the fishing families which are dependent on the river and the wetland system. We refused to meet. So I'll tell you stories about it later, why we refused to meet Jairam Ramesh. So the river, Manipur River, since 1983 has been blocked, and because it is blocked on the upstream portion, on the left and the right flank of the river, there are natural wetland system. When water goes up, water goes down, then you have this natural wetland system. The water goes up, goes down, people depend on it, fish and all aquatic system, the whole interesting natural cycle was there, but that cycle has been stopped, because the water is kept high all the time, like a typical reservoir. So the upstream is a reservoir on the left and the right. So there's a permanent water stagnation that has been going on. In 1983, when the dam was built, none of the people, none of the farmers, none of the fishing families were compensated. And till today, there has been no compensation by NHPC or the government till now. So I work with the fishing villages, both on the right flank and the left flank of the, and it's wetland region, a lot of fishing families on both sides. The thing is that before the dam was built, people were, in the dry season, people were more of agriculturists. They farm, they do farming in the dry area. When the water rises due to monsoon, when the rain comes, they become fishing families. So it's like a cycle of different kind of profession. But now they are primarily fishing families, fishing villages around this upstream portion. I don't want to bring too many issues here because there are many issues which we are currently engaged with. The struggle that started in 1983, the problem that started in 1983 has continued, in fact, much more in a difficult situation for the villages around. One important point I want to state here is that the people say small dams. Now, this small dam, this is not even a small, this is not even a dam, as I was saying. 105, sorry, what was I saying? 105 megawatt, and it's about 10 meters or so. The height, but the impact is such devastating. So the question of big dam and small dam has been, I have raised this issue in other platforms also, that it's not that small dams are all good, but small dams, we have to see case by case, but small dams can have such ramifications, such problems. That's one issue. The other is that displacement is not a one-time episode or a month or 2 year or 1 year. Displacement can be for over a period of time, for a long period of time, even maybe in the whole cycle of a dam itself, the whole life cycle of a dam itself. What do I mean by this? So as I was saying, compensation was not provided at that time. But people somehow adjusted because they lived in water for in the past, before the dam was built. They have now adjusted as fishing families. They're there on both sides. Now, over a period of time, because fishing in common water is not legally recognized. These are primarily, as I forgot to mention, that these are primarily capture fishery activities that people do in the common reservoir, common water, and they are not recognized. So over a period of time, the government enacted new laws for conservation of reservoir, new laws for conservation of birds, new laws for bringing in national park within the reservoir, like the Cable Lamjau National Park. We are now struggling with an extension of a Cable Lamjau National Park on the other side of the left bank of the river. So as that time goes by, now it's about 30 plus years, 35, 38 years now, that in fact the struggle to find some place within the lake itself, within the river, to fish there in the river, the fish in the lake itself has become so problematic that because there are conservation laws that has come for wetlands, conservation laws that they said, okay, there are many birds coming, let's protect the birds. Or there's a rare animal that's there, well, let's protect it. But somehow people has been, people is not never part of, people have been affected, people have adapted, people have struggled, has never been part of, the scheme. They have always been treated as an enemy, as encroacher. And the law, for example, the Loktak Protection Act, the Loktak Lake, which is actually on the right side of the, so when we talk about Loktak, it's part of this dam issue. So it's these are not separate issues. The Loktak Protection Act, which came up in 2006, which was enacted by the then Congress government at the time. That's why we refused to meet Jairam Ramesh, because I met him last month, but then when I discussed with the fishing community, he said, no, we're not going to meet him, because it was Congress at the time who enacted the law. It was in 2011, they burned down 777 households, floating household, fishing families' households were burned down at the time. So that you have to apologize, you have to, you have to review the Loktak Protection Act. Otherwise, there's no way we will meet with you guys, because now it's election time is coming up. So a lot of these, gimmick, what BJP, all this Congress, they throw tricks on us, right? As we all know. And so that's another story. I will not mix that, political party election issue here. But then, so the second point that I was trying to stress was that in a lot of reservoirs, in other reservoirs also, if we are not careful about the right to fish, the right to live in where you are, the right to be as near as your homeland, even if your homeland has been submerged by a reservoir, those are important issues that needs to be noted, because you might think that you are already nearby the reservoir, you will be able to live there for a long time, but in the long run you might be chased out again by various mechanisms the government brings up. So that's the second point I wanted to raise. Also, we are struggling with few other projects, like with Avli and group, their organization with Manthan. Also, we have been looking at the Loktak waterway project, which is to connect 9 villages with motorboats. The people are saying no motorboats. We are happy with our traditional dugout canoes, so that's used for fishing. So a lot of struggles around that. We have made some report together with Avli's group also. Right now we are fighting with another project, which is the ecotourism project. This so-called ecotourism project, which actually is about creating golf course and yoga meditation center, resorts, and all that. All those stuff. So that will actually now, that we are in a difficult situation, a very important time where whether who wins the lake is already, NHPC is already governing the water, the decision of the water. But now inside and just the periphery of the lake, both the lakes, whether it's going to be by conservationists of the national national park, or the big hotels and resorts and golf courses that are coming in to grab the lake and the land around. So that's a situation now. That's a story from Manipur for now. Thank you. I'm done. Avli.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Sorry, I was unmuting myself. थैंक यू। ये बहुत ही कम टाइम में इतने सारे इश्यूज के बारे में हमने आपसे जाना। मैं बहुत ही एक तरीके से छोटा करके, बट ये इश्यूज बहुत सारे हैं, बट मैं ट्राई करूंगी कि एक बारी ट्रांसलेट करके मैं हिंदी में भी इस बारे में बोलूं, बिकॉज काफी ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट इश्यूज हैं जिसके बारे में एक तरीके से चर्चा में भी हम डिस्कशन में भी कर सकते हैं। और इसके साथ में मैं ये भी बोलना चाहती हूँ कि बहुत अच्छी और बहुत डाइवर्स इश्यूज मणिपुर से राम सर ने सामने रखे हैं। और उसमें पहला इशू जो उन्होंने रखा साथ में लाइक एक तरीके से ज्योग्राफी ऑफ द रिवर्स ही हैज एक्सप्लेन्ड, जिस तरह से उन्होंने पूरी नदियों के बारे में हम लोगों को बताया कि एक तरीके से एक बराज जो कि इतना ज्यादा बड़ा भी नहीं है, एक तरह से देखा जाए तो ये हम एक बड़े बांध की बात नहीं कर रहे, ये छोटा बराज है जिसकी वजह से नदी जो कि बर्मा की तरफ जाने वाली थी, म्यांमार की तरफ चलती थी, वो अब बांग्लादेश की तरफ उसका दिशा कर दी गई है। एंड सबसे महत्व की बात, सबसे तो नहीं मतलब काफी महत्व की बात यह है कि इन्होंने एक तरीके से एजिंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, मतलब जो 1983 से अब उस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का क्या हो रहा है, अब उस बराज का क्या हो रहा है, उसके बारे में भी बात रखी, जो बहुत ही ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है। और एक तरीके से देखा जाए तो जैसे उन्होंने बताया कि कैसे ड्राई सीजन और वेट सीजन में दो अलग अलग तरीके की आजीविकाएं थी लोगों की। वो पहले मतलब खेती किसानी उससे अपना घर चलाते थे और उसके बाद में मछुआई भी करते थे। तो दो तरीके का लाइवलीहुड था लोगों का, जब जो कि एक तरीके से नदी को एक रिजर्वॉयर में कन्वर्ट करने के बाद में सिर्फ उनके पास एक ही तरीके का आजीविका रह गई, जिसको उन्होंने आगे एक्सप्लेन किया कि कैसे ये पूरे के पूरे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के बाद में नए नए अधिनियम लगाने के बाद में उस रीजन के बाद एक तरीके से हम डिस्प्लेसमेंट जिसे कहते हैं, लोगों का विस्थापन एक बार की घटना नहीं हो गई, वो बार बार रिपीट होता है, दोहराया जाता है। और ये एक तरीके से 30 साल से ज्यादा का संघर्ष है लोगों का, जिसमें अब लोगों को एक तरीके से कब्जा करने वालों की दृष्टि से देखा जाता है, जबकि वो वहाँ के एक्चुअल ड्वेलर्स हैं। एंड देन ही आल्सो टॉक्ड अबाउट कुछ रीसेंट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, कुछ रीसेंट हस्तक्षेपों के बारे में बात किया, जैसे कि लोकतक में कैसे एक इनलैंड वाटरवेज अंतर्देशीय जलमार्ग जो है उसी की एक पूरा का पूरा लोकतक पे एक इम्प्रूवमेंट प्रोजेक्ट चल रहा है, जिसके चलते भी काफी मछुआरी का लॉस ऐसा बोला जा रहा है। एंड उसका एक पूरा का पूरा क्रिटिक जो है वो इंडिजिनस पर्सपेक्टिव और मंथन ने साथ में किया था, जिसका मैंने एक लिंक चैट बॉक्स में भी डाला है। और साथ में उन्होंने नई चीजों के बारे में भी बताया कि कैसे एक तरीके से इको टूरिज्म हो गया, वाटर पार्क हो गया, वो सब कुछ टूरिज्म के नाम पे लोगों मतलब एक तरीके से पूरा का पूरा विकास उस दृष्टि से देखा जा रहा है। बट जो एक्चुअल लोगों के अभी भी मुद्दे हैं उसको पॉलिटिक्स का अगर हम लेंस से ना देखें तो उसके अलावा इन मुद्दों पे बात नहीं हो रही है। सो आई थिंक बहुत सारे इसमें डिस्कशन के लिए बहुत फर्टाइल ग्राउंड है, बट ज्यादा समय ना लेते हुए मैं अपने नेक्स्ट स्पीकर को अभी इनवाइट करना चाहूंगी। एंड सॉरी 1 सेकेंड। ओके, सो नेक्स्ट स्पीकर के लिए मैं जागृति जी से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी कि वो अपने आप को अनम्यूट करें और हमारे सामने बनारस की और गंगा से रिलेटेड जो सारी की सारी गतिविधियां अभी क्या हो रही हैं उसके बारे में हमें बताएं। जागृति जी आपसे।
तो अभी बनारस और मैं चाहूंगी कि अभी चूंकि मैं काफी दिनों से पिछले 2 महीने से 2-3 मतलब कम से कम 10-15 जिलों में घूमी हूँ, तो कुछ जो स्थितियां नजर आई, अब आप काम कर रहे हैं उस मुद्दे पे, अगर इंटरेस्ट है तो नेचुरली कुछ चीजें आपका ध्यान खींचती हैं। तो पिछले दिनों में जो मैंने देखा है उन्हीं के आधार पे बात रखूंगी। गंगा में बनारस की जो बातें हैं वो कई बार हम लोग इस प्लेटफॉर्म पे बातें कर ही चुके हैं ऑलरेडी, लेकिन शुरुआत करती हूँ। मैंने जो देखा उसमें पहला मुद्दा जो मुझे बहुत बड़ा इशू नजर आया वो सोनभद्र की बात करूं। अगर सोनभद्र में सोन नदी का जो रिहन डैम का मामला है, रिहन डैम इतने जमाने पहले आजादी के बाद शायद पहले शुरुआती दौर में बनने वाला डैम है, और वहां पे जिस तरह से नदी को तो रोक ही दिया गया, लेकिन उसके बाद जिस तरह से ऐश डाइक की स्थिति है, उसमें लगातार ऐश डाले जाते हैं और फिर वो वहां से जो पानी है अल्टीमेटली छूट करके और पोल्यूशन जो होता है वो सारा कुछ लेके वो गंगा में ही आती है नदी। तो एक तो इशू ये बहुत बड़ा है अपने आप में और वो एक रिसर्च का विषय है कि सोनभद्र में जो स्थितियां हैं, विस्थापन का मुद्दा तो है ही अपने आप में, लेकिन नदी में जो लगातार ये जारा डाला जा रहा है पोल्यूटेंट और जिस तरह से उसका इकोलॉजी पूरी तरह बिगड़ा है, उसके माध्यम से गंगा में भी चीजें उसी तरह से आ रही हैं, उनका एक अध्ययन होना चाहिए और हुआ भी होगा, लेकिन जो अभी स्थिति है उसको लेकर के हम लोगों का कंसर्न उससे जुड़ना चाहिए मुझे लगता है। दूसरा जो हमने देखा कि दूसरा सिटी जो स्मार्ट सिटी है सो कॉल्ड, अभी मैं पिछले 1.5 हफ्ते से लगभग कानपुर में हूँ और कानपुर में मैं 2 दिन पहले ही अभी गंगा बैराज देखने गई थी। तो जो बात उन्होंने मणिपुर के लिए कही वही बात है कि बैराज के नाम पे वहां पे पिकनिक स्पॉट बना दिया गया है। गंगा पे वो बैराज है और उसके उस तरफ जो वेटलैंड है, जो जमीन है पूरी की पूरी नदी का कैचमेंट एरिया है, जो वहां पे स्मार्ट सिटी बना रहे हैं। एक मतलब दूसरा शहर कानपुर का ट्विन सिटी या जो भी कहें उसको, बहुत बड़ा एरिया में उसमें शहर डेवलप करने का काम कर रहे हैं, जबकि वो साफ दिखाई दे रहा है। वहां अभी तक एक साइड जो सड़क के उस तरफ है, जिसको एक बांध वाली सड़क कह सकते हैं, पूरा इलाका जो है पानी से भरा हुआ है। तो साफ दिखता है कि ये एकदम जबरिया प्रोजेक्ट है अपने आप में कि आप एक कितना बड़ा बड़े बड़े अपार्टमेंट्स और इतनी सारी बिल्डिंगें बना रहे हैं और नदी के जस्ट किनारे पे बना रहे हैं। वो जमीन है, वेटलैंड है, बिल्कुल नीचे लो लाइन एरिया है, वहां पर आप इस तरह का कंस्ट्रक्शन इतने बड़े पैमाने पे कर रहे हैं। और यही नहीं है, मैंने देखा कि छोटी छोटी नदियां भी उसके आसपास में धाराएं हैं जो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हैं और अभी ऐसा नहीं है कि वो खत्म है, वो अच्छा खासा उनसे नहरें जुड़ी हुई हैं और मुझे नाम बहुत नहीं पता, लेकिन वो सारी नदियां गांवों के इलाकों में मैं लगातार घूम रही हूँ तो देख रही हूँ कि वो बहुत बड़ा इलाका है। जो वो नदियां शायद इस बैराज और इस प्रोजेक्ट के बाद पता नहीं बचेंगी कि नहीं बचेंगी। तो एक तो ये इशू था कि इस पे भी हम लोगों को थोड़ा यूपी में कम से कम स्टडी करने की जरूरत है, ध्यान देके। तीसरा जो वैसे ही बात करूं कि गंगा को लेकर के कि और जिलों में भी मैं गई, मैं जौनपुर में गई, मैं गाजीपुर, मऊ, पूर्वांचल के 10-11 जिलों में लगातार घूमी और हर जिले में मैंने ये देखा, क्योंकि ग्रामीण इलाकों में जा रही हूँ तो मैंने देखा कि हर जगह जो है कोई ना कोई जो है छोटी छोटी 3-4 नदियां एवरेज, मतलब ये है कि हर जिले में है, उनका एग्जिस्टेंस है और वो उन पे बात नहीं हो पाती है उनका। जो इस तरह से गंगा पे ये प्रोजेक्ट डेवलप हो रहा है और प्रोजेक्ट मतलब एक तरह से पूरी साजिश हो रही है गंगा को छीन लेने की, खत्म करने की, तो उसमें गंगा का सवाल जो है इन नदियों का भी सवाल होता है और वो हम लोग अभी तक उसको अंडरलाइन नहीं कर पाए हैं। कहीं ना कहीं मुझे लग रहा है कि हम लोगों को ये काम लेना चाहिए कि जो ये छोटी छोटी नदियां हैं हर जिले में, बनारस का मैं जानती हूँ पर जितने जिलों में मैं घूमी लगातार मैं देख रही हूँ कि इस तरह की हर हर जिले में है वो, वही धारा गंगा से निकली है और वो बहुत बड़े इलाके को सर्व करती है अपने आप में, उसकी पूरे सिस्टम को बनाती है। तो एक तो ये मुझे लगता है कि ये देखने की हम लोगों को पूरे पूर्वांचल में नहीं पूरे यूपी में ये देखने की जरूरत है। छोटी नदियां जो हैं जो गंगा से निकली हुई हैं, गंगा में जा रही हैं या अपनी स्वतंत्र तरीके से भी उनका रिसोर्स है तो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, मुझे लगता है शायद उनकी लड़ाई थोड़ा हम लोगों को ज्यादा महत्व से लेनी चाहिए। तीसरा जो चौथा जो मेरा मुद्दा जो बात हो रही थी, अगर बनारस की बात करूं तो बनारस में उन लोगों ने वाटरवेज वाला जो सारा प्लान था उसको लेकर के अभी नहर बना दी थी। हमने पिछली बार भी बोला ही था कि नदी के बीचों बीच इन्होंने ठेका दे करके और करोड़ों का और ढेर रेत निकाली और रेत निकाल के वही नदी के बीच में 2 धाराएं बना दी और उसकी वजह से धारा मतलब इतनी बुरी तरह प्रभावित हुई और कितने मतलब 80 से ले करके और पूरा 80 क्या शुरुआत है जहां से रामनगर के पास से, वहां से लेकर के और पूरा राजघाट तक उन्होंने 2 धाराओं में बांट दिया गंगा नदी को और उस तरफ इतनी गहराई खोद दी है उसको ड्रेजिंग करके कि 3-4 लोगों की तो जानें चली गई उसमें गिरने से। इस तरह का इतना गहरा करा है उसको। और क्या हुआ उसके बाद, वहां पे कछुआ सेंचुरी थी, उसका क्या हुआ, कहाँ गए, और किस तरह वन्य जीवों का क्या, नदी के जीवों का क्या हाल हुआ, पता नहीं। अभी क्या कर रहे हैं कि मछुआरों को मछली के लिए जो ठेके दिए थे खेती के, वो भी वापस ले लिए हैं। किसी को वहां घाट पे भी जाने भी नहीं दे रहे हैं उस तरह से, और रोक रहे हैं हर वहां पे। मतलब चालान कटना शुरू हो गया है, जैसे सड़कों पे पुलिस काटती थी, अब वहां चालान घाटों पे कटना शुरू हो गया है बनारस में। तो ये कम्युनिटी को, लोगों को दूर करने का जो उनका प्रोजेक्ट है, वो मणिपुर से लेके बनारस तक चल ही रहा है उस तरह से। समुदाय लगातार वहां पे लड़ रहा है इस बात के लिए कि उसको नाव चलाने दीजिए, उसको खेती करने दीजिए नदी की जमीन पर, और नदी की जमीन पर ही सबसे ज्यादा निगाह है हर जगह। वो चाहे वाटर फ्रंट बना फ्रंट के कर रहे हो, या दूसरे प्रोजेक्ट्स को लेके, पर्यटन और रिवर फ्रंट और ठेकेदारी। मैं इसको इस तरह से कहूंगी कि हमको ये अंडरलाइन करना चाहिए कि ये मामला केवल रिसोर्सेस पे कब्जा करने का या पर्यटन का नहीं है। असली में जो कल्प्रिट है उसका कहीं ना कहीं वो ठेका व्यवस्था है। जो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स हैं, जो बिल्डर्स हैं, उनकी निगाह में नदियां इस तरह से उनको फायदा दे रही हैं। दूसरा, एक कंपनी अभी सुन रहे हैं कि आईआरसीटीसी के साथ बातचीत हो गई है, और वो मतलब ये क्रूज वाला पूरा का पूरा जो सिस्टम डेवलप कर रहे हैं नदी के माध्यम से। अब क्रूज सिस्टम जो वो ला रहे हैं, आप बताइए ना, क्रूज में नशा उपलब्ध कराएंगे और यूथ को बर्बाद करेंगे। ये हर जगह ये मॉडल रिप्लिकेट होने वाला है। वो खाली बम्बई दिल्ली की चीज नहीं है, अब वो हम लोगों की तरफ भी आ रही है। हमारे यहाँ भी गंगा में शराब सर्व होने लगी है। तो ये कल्चरल मुद्दा भी है अपने आप में उस तरह से। और जहां तक सवाल पानी का और उस चीज का है, इस बार बाढ़ आई थी, बनारस में बाढ़ आई, और उत्तर प्रदेश में और भी जगह पर आई, लेकिन बनारस में मैं देख रही थी स्पेशली कि शहर में जिस तरह से पानी गया है, और उस दौरान जिस तरह से लोग नदी के, वरुणा नदी के किनारे की पूरी बस्तियां बुरी तरह 10-15 दिन तक पूरा डूबी हुई थी। उन लोगों को वहां से हटाने की, रिप्लेस करने की, मदद करने का तो कोई प्लान नहीं है, लेकिन उजाड़ने की तैयारी है, क्योंकि उनको वैसे ही वाटर फ्रंट बनाना है, रिवर फ्रंट बनाना है, जैसे गंगा के किनारे बनाए थे। बनारस में जो नाद नदी है, जो 80 नदी है, जो 5 नदियों की बात है, वहां पे भी ये बात करूं कि 80 नदी को तो इन लोगों ने पूरा नाला घोषित कर दिया, पचा डाले हैं। लेकिन जो बची हुई है वरुणा और नाद जैसी नदियां, उनका इशू जो है हम लोगों को लेने की जरूरत है। अगर हम इनको नहीं बचा पाएंगे, कहीं ना कहीं इनकी बात अगर नहीं करेंगे, तो ये गंगा की मुख्य धारा की जो बात है ना, वो भी बचने वाली नहीं है। मुझे लगता है कि इतना ही कहना था मुझे भी। थैंक यू।
थैंक यू जागृति जी। अगेन लाइक बहुत सारे बातों के बारे में आपने बात किया। काफी इम्पोर्टेंट इश्यूज हैं इसमें निकल के आ रहे हैं। सबसे बड़ी बात जो आई थिंक कल मैं मिर्जा जी से भी कल बात कर रही थी, और उन्होंने भी कहा कि काफी फ्रेगमेंटेड अप्रोच है जब हम रिवर्स के बारे में बात करते हैं। वी डोंट सी रिवर एज अ होल। और सिमिलर फैशन में लाइक जागृति जी also said that we have not even studied the extent to which the smaller rivulets or tributaries or distributaries of the rivers are getting impacted, and what has happened to what sort of impacts are going on or are about to or what sort of interventions are going on these smaller rivulets, which will have like potentially big impacts. I think she also touched upon various issues, and she also linked to the barrages that was spoken about from Ram sir. I think she talked about the whole barrages in Ganga in Kanpur. She also talked about how we are going to develop all these riverfront projects around the rivers, how wetlands are getting soaked, and she said we are literally constructing a twin city in Kanpur. But all of these issues are really important, because the primary role of a river is that of drainage, and if we don't allow it to flow, then there is no way that we can sustain our cities. Like no matter how much concrete we and how much land we reclaim out of these rivers. And very interestingly, she also spoke about what happened in Benaras, and both of twin like sort of impacts of the waterways are getting are emerging there. She talked about how this canal was excavated in the river, and they bifurcated the river itself by excavating all the sand from the river. And interestingly, there were news that whatever they took out from the river, it was supposed to be sold. So the all of the sand, when the river flooded, all of it came back to the river. So whatever intervention that they did, whatever impacts were felt by the aquatic animals and their habitats, those were done all in vain, because there was no benefit out of these interventions. And also she talked about how there are now restrictions on fishing. People are not even allowed to enter many banks, and all these projects are being proposed in the name of getting people closer to the rivers, but in reality, they're actually pushing them away. And she also talked about how these cruises are coming up with IRCTC and with waterways, and what sort of impacts are there. And there are also like very, very felt impacts, very expressed sort of struggle was there in 2019 as well, when small boat operators actually went and they resisted all these operations of cruises. And now we have 2 cruises, Alaknanda, and there is one more cruise in Varanasi in Ganga. Anyway, please, I'm seeing there's a lot of conversation happening in the chat as well. So please feel free to write your comments, queries, suggestion here. We'll move on to our next speaker. She's a very creative young person. She's the student of commerce in Delhi University, Denmit, Lepcha, and she's also a budding poet and an avid reader. And she comes from Himalayan region of Zongu in the state of Sikkim, and has been voicing about the issues of dams across the river Teesta through the medium of poetry. But also request Denmit to also maybe recite a poem for us if it's possible. And we have the translation in chat as well. In case I'm missing out on some of the translation, you can please go through the chats. Over to you, Denmit.
Yes, good evening, Kamri Mo, to everybody who is present here. I
think Denmit has a presentation. Can we have it on the screen?
Yes, please play the presentation along. Yes, so I have taken all these images from the official page of affected citizens of the Teesta. First of all, good evening, Kamri Mo, to everybody who is present. It is indeed a very honorable moment for me to be present here. I would like to say that I'm not an expert like Ram sir and ma'am, but then I'm just a student, and whatever I will be saying is from the perspective of a very young girl, indigenous young girl belonging to a very marginalized community. So before I start, I would like to quote this Native American saying, which I have always looked upon. It says, only after the last fish has been caught, only after the last tree has been cut down and the last stream has been poisoned, then will we realize that money cannot be eaten. And I think that is so true. So we're all aware of the fact that water is so important for all our lives to sustain. Our earth is made up of 70% water, same with our body. And then if we look into history also, we have seen so many civilizations and so many settlements that have taken place near river or near some water body. But this is my story, and I think it is also the story of so many other women who are not here, but I feel the urge to retell these stories, because I think it is very important that just harmlessly being born as me, Denmit Lepcha, I need to retell these stories because these have been passed down by my mother through my by my ancestors through my mother. So I would say that I am a very new member of the Act, and I do not know, I have not struggled as much as our forefathers have. Act, the first time I was aware of this situation was when I was in class 4 or 5, and I was studying in one. Of course, I've got the best of education in my life, and I have studied in Tashinamgal Academy, which is one of the best schools in Sikkim, and then later went on to do my graduation from Delhi University. But then I heard, but then there was this strike that the Act had. Act were fighting for their land, and then I was unaware of it back then, because the problem didn't even strike as important for me, because I was young and I did not know about the struggles of my own people. That was the very first. But then what actually began the journey for me was in 2020, and that is why I keep on saying that the lockdown has been a blessing in disguise for me. And it was then this movement began, where Act was protesting against the stage 4 dam that was to be built on the last stretch of the free-flowing Teesta. And that is the only stretch of where the Teesta River flows freely, and they were going to build a dam there. And people from Zongu and especially Act were fighting against it. And it is really disheartening, because Sikkim is one of the smallest states in India. If you know, it's the second smallest state. And in such a small state, we already have 30 plus dams, and we do not require that. And I think it is just the government's or the people's greed, but they should really keep in mind how it is impacting the people and the lives out there. So also, what brought me closer to this movement was I had participated in this webinar, which was almost 1 month long, and then I got to connect with many people like Anam Minkit and Anam Mayalmit and all, who have always been fighting for the rivers, and these strong women also inspired me a lot. So in that webinar, I got to question my connectivity and question my relationship with my water. And I worked around Lingdem Hot Water Spring, which is supposed to be a magical hot water spring where you go and dip yourself, and and then it cures your body of all ailments. And when I connected through that review led, my connection with water, I think it just grew all the more deeper. And also, I would like to raise this question or a doubt that why is only a small sector of the people, only a small segment of people in entire Sikkim, especially the one that is there in the cornermost of Sikkim, North Sikkim, only the people of Zongu or the Lepchas are protesting against the dam, when Sikkim, when Teesta is the major dam of entire Sikkim, and it has been there in Sikkim's history, and it has been a very important river for entire Sikkim. But it is only a small segment of the entire Sikkim that is protesting against and just act. Okay, so it's really saddening, and I want to question everybody who is not there to support us, because of course I understand why the Lepchas are protesting, because we are tribals and we are the nature worshippers, and we hold the Mount Kanchenjunga very sacred. We also hold all our rivers, nature very sacred. We worship trees and nature. Of course, we have sentiments connected with the river, and I have always picnicked in the river bank, and we have our boom thing wash away our omens in the river. And also my father brings some delicious fish from the river which we cook and eat. So we have our sentiments, but I think ACT needs more solidarity, and we need more people supporting the organization. What happens in Sikkim is that I think people know that dams are harming our ecology. People know that we are being wronged, but they're still afraid to question, or they're still afraid to raise their voices, because there is this misconception that that if we are anti-dam, then we are anti-government. But it is not that. We are not against the government, but what we are against, not that we are against any specific political party or a political organization, but what we are against is the destruction of our lands, like the exploitation of our resources in the name of development, and which is harming at the cost of our future generations. So one needs to understand that and not be afraid to raise their voices, right? And I would also like to say that we are very marginalized, the people of Zongo, and our problems are not heard by many people, and I think we bear it alone. In Zongo, there are, I think, 22 villages that are that are cut off from the rest of the world, right? There's just a bridge. The road has been damaged in the 27 landslide, massive flash flood that happened. Not flood, I mean a massive landslide that happened, that washed away an entire village called Manthan, and it blocked a rivulet as big as the Rongyong. So it blocked an entire course of the river. Almost a cliff fell off, and the entire village was washed off. And that has disconnected almost 22 villages from like the rest of the world. There is no road, so there is a lot of problem that these people face, and people have to carry whatever, even necessities like food items, rice, everything needs to be carried and taken to the other side and then transported. So even the village that I live in, Pasingdang, is not entirely safe. Just last year, in the year 2020, we had this massive landslide, and people have lost their homes, if not lives. And even we are at threat. Everywhere there is landslide happening. It's uncountable, and of course we cannot go into greater details. But then these are the few things that are happening, and there is also the decreasing snowfall every year. There is also climate change that is happening, and the drying up of streams and smaller rivers. And also there is what was I going to say? Yes, so there are landslides everywhere that is happening, and the weather is very erratic. Of course, weather is supposed to be erratic, but it is very erratic, and year by year there is also decreasing rainfall that is happening. So all these are very concerning, and I, being a young girl, a young person who is just understanding all these, and I would urge all the youngsters, all those people, to join hands and be there for ACT, because the fact that we are very young is an advantage, I think, because it is our right time to act, and whatever struggles our ancestors have made, we have to follow it. And I think they have almost risked their lives, went into hunger strikes and not eaten for so many days, and I think they did it for the future generations, for us. And I think we need to carry the legacy forward, and we need to keep fighting for our land. And we need to take it forward, because that should not go to waste. The struggle that they have fought for so many years should not stop here, and it should be carried forward. So that is my message that I have to all the young people. Yes, I think that is more or less it. If we have time, somebody, if we have time, there was this poem that I had written against stage 4. Okay, so also I would like to just add that we also have Panam project coming up, and we are also fighting against that. Stage 4 and Panam project are two major projects that we are fighting against. So with that, I would like to end here, and I would now like to recite this very sentimental and very personal poem for you all. The poem is titled "Damn Your Dams." Okay, I'll begin. Damn your dams. Dear people, I'm sure you wouldn't like it. Yes, okay. So I'll just share the poem in the chat box, and then you can follow it along, right? Yeah, I'll do that.
No, I think it would be good if you can recite it. You can also share in the chat box so that people can like further share it. But if it's possible for you to recite, then please go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and you can share it a bit later also. Just go ahead and recite.
Okay. So, I thought, I thought you wanted me to share it right away. Yeah, okay. So the poem is titled "Damn Your Dams," and it is a protest poetry. And it was like this. Dear people, I'm sure you wouldn't like it if your arms were twisted, your legs cut off, your breath suffocating, and your pathway blocked and altered. So does Teesta, on the banks of which we picnicked on New Year's, where the Bongting washed away our ill omens, where my dad spent his boyhood days angling all they are, but memories only left to cherish, because now our Teesta no more sprints or leaps or girls, but is forced to move slow in still in dark, empty tunnels, where once it flowed freely on its own will, bringing in abundance of mirth and fertility. But now, its course is a matter of discourse, because dams have eroded not just our lands, but our identity, our culture. Amid slogans shouting hashtag stop stage 4, hashtag stop NHPC, hashtag free flowing river, as if raised only to get more likes on Instagram. But will you forget our pleas and pleas, our hunger strikes till tubes had to be inserted into the body for survival? But alas, maybe you'll forget it still, because it's not you, it's just the Teesta. But I know you won't forget to lure us with your money. But I'll tell you, your money will finish one day. But as long as my river flows, it will take care of the needs of my 100 generation and hundreds more after that. And then you will still come to us, tell us it's development. But if this is what you call development, then go damn your dams, because dams are not just Lepcha's problem or Zongu's problem. This is my problem, should be your problem, national and a global problem, because climate change is the problem, natural disaster, extinction and global warming is the problem. The earth is in problem. And I approach to you, all of you, because this is our one and only earth. And the earth is our only home. And our home is our responsibility. Thank you. That was the poem. Yes, thank you. And I would also like to add that we've all been watching National Geographic, and I think it has always given us the wrong message, and it has always taught us it's man versus wild. But I would like to correct it here and say that it is not man versus wild, but it is man and wild that will have to coexist and live together. Thank you so much.
Wow, Denmit, it was really moving. By no means I can do any justice by translating it in Hindi, so I'm not going to attempt it. But what you said like really moved us all. मैं कितना भी कोशिश करूँ इसको हिंदी में ट्रांसलेट करने का ये किसी भी हद तक what you have said I will not be able to convey. बट ओवरऑल डेनमिट ने काफी अच्छी बातें और बहुत काफी महत्व की बातें सामने रखी. उन्होंने एक तरीके से इन वेबिनार्स की के महत्व के बारे में भी एक तरह से बात रखी, क्योंकि इन वेबिनार के जरिए ही उनको इस पूरे एक्चुअल में क्या हो रहा है उनकी खुद की नदियों के ऊपर उसके बारे में पता चला. एंड इसके थ्रू ही इन वेबिनार्स इस लॉकडाउन के इंटरेक्शंस के थ्रू ही वो इन सब चीजों से जुड़ी. एंड हम बहुत ही ग्लैड हैं कि वो इस सॉर्ट ऑफ स्ट्रगल में साथ में है. एंड एक तरीके से उन्होंने बात रखी कि कैसे तीस्ता के जो अब आखिरी हिस्सा बचा है वहां पर भी एक जहां पर तीस्ता अपने प्राकृतिक रूप में बहती है वहां पर भी बांध प्रस्तावित है और वहां पे कितने सारे और भी बांध प्रस्तावित हैं. एंड उन्होंने एक बहुत अच्छा कनेक्शन भी एक तरीके से सामने लाया कि कैसे सिक्किम में लेप्चा या फिर जिस गांव से वो है उस गांव के लोग ही क्यों इस डैम के बारे में संघर्ष कर रहे हैं. एंड ये कहीं ना कहीं इस बात से भी रिलेटेड है जो कि उन्होंने अपनी कविता में भी कहा कि ये जो डैम्स हैं ये हमारी जमीन ही नहीं लेके जाते, हमारी आइडेंटिटी भी लेके जाते हैं, जिसको उन्होंने इस चीज से जोड़ा कि प्राकृतिक रूप से वो पेड़ों की प्रकृति की किस तरीके से पूजा करते हैं. एक तरीके से सेंटिमेंट्स जुड़े हुए हैं लोगों के. एंड काफी इतने सालों का मतलब उनके पूरे एक तरीके से एक पुश्तैनी संघर्ष रहा है. एंड उस संघर्ष को आगे लाने के लिए आगे युवा लोगों को भी इस संघर्ष में शामिल होना चाहिए. एंड बाकी भी उन्होंने जियोग्राफिकल कॉन्स्टेंट्स के बारे में बात रखी है, अनप्रेडिक्टेबिलिटी के बारे में बात रखी है, लैंडस्लाइड्स, फ्लड्स, ड्राई सीजन्स. आई थिंक ओवरऑल एक पूरा सिक्किम का उन्होंने एक अच्छी तरीके से एक ब्यौरा दिया है. एंड वी आर सो थैंकफुल दैट यू कुड जॉइन अस डेनमिट. आई थिंक मूविंग ऑन वी हैव आवर नेक्स्ट स्पीकर मिर्जा जुल्फिकर रहमान जी. मिर्जा जुल्फिकर रहमान जी इंडिपेंडेंट रिसर्चर है, आसाम में बेस्ड है और उन्होंने अपना IIT गुवाहाटी से PhD किया है. एंड हिज एरियाज ऑफ रिसर्च इंक्लूड ट्रांसबाउंडरी वाटर शेयरिंग, हाइड्रो पावर डैम्स, रोड्स एंड कनेक्टिविटी, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स. आई थिंक काफी ज्यादा रेंज है उनके स्टडी में. तो आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट हिम टू नाउ टॉक about his all these things, maybe whatever he can cover. And yesterday we were talking about it and you talked about how the way we look at rivers, it's so fragmented. So maybe if you can also touch upon some of the issues of transboundary rivers, that would also add to the discussion. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Avli, and also for NAPM to invite me to this present my views on this subject. And I think that such conversations are very, very important to continue going on in the future as well. So that, I was also talking probably yesterday that, that the conversations between the Ganges Basin and the Brahmaputra Basin, all of this should keep on continuing. And that is only how we can actually build solidarity and going forward in our challenges that we face in our everyday lives. I would actually like to show some pictures that I've actually taken during my field work in Northeast India. Maybe through them, maybe I will also try to take through what I have to say. Maybe, is it possible to share my screen here?
Yes, Mirza, go ahead.
So this So basically, what I'm going to actually speak about today is only focusing mostly on the spaces that the transboundary spaces that we basically live in. And you could actually see in this picture from a very high Himalayan peaks to the rolling hills and also towards the plains, actually how people live along these different layers of, kind of landscapes, geographies. And how do we also understand geographies partly also matters a lot, because this is another image taken from Google Earth, actually, which also shows the the geographical expanse of this region. You can see the Brahmaputra coming in from the east, actually, and then you could see the Teesta just now. Denmit has spoken about the Teesta coming up from the north. The Ganges coming in from the west, and you can also see them meeting together inside Bangladesh. There is a Sundarbans at the bottom, and also the larger, the Himalayan space, in a sense. It shows, in a sense, the natural geography of the region, as to how communities understand the natural geography, as to how for decades and centuries people have lived along these rivers. And a very important thing that I've also understood over my years of research here, that the understanding that communities living along these rivers actually have moved as the rivers have moved. And while the state perspective, the nation state perspective that we see today, the politicians and the bureaucrats and the hydrologists, they try to move the river as per the needs of the state. So that is the very, very basic difference that we have to actually underscore here, in terms of how we live with our rivers today. And when we see this natural geography, we see this as natural. But what has actually now come to our minds are these kind of borders. This is basically the larger map of South Asia and Southeast Asia, where we see so many interdependencies, we see so many different rivers flowing in from the Tibetan Plateau, where as many as 10 different rivers originate. And we see the different countries, and these are the bordered containers now through which we understand the geopolitical significance of rivers. And almost these borders, the nation-state borders, are now seen to be natural, which itself is a problem. In a sense, because it is then categorizing us, dividing us, in a sense, the dividing communities, not only in the international sense here, but also within the nation as well. For example, between states in Northeast India, between states within India and Northeast India, and all across, between Bhutan and Northeast India, or Nepal and rest of India. So all of these borders are now almost seen as natural. And again, coming from the natural landscape to this kind of a political landscape and a geopolitical landscape. So that is actually also at the essence of how now we understand rivers. And this picture, which again is of the Brahmaputra landscape in Assam, also shows the importance of the contiguities and the connections that we have to actually understand very well. So that, the river is not a separate entity. It is really integrated to what, the understandings of the larger landscape is. Sometimes it is being thought that, the river is far away and therefore nothing. So the whole point again that I want to actually emphasize here is that this ecological connectivity, and we have a lot of connectivity between like wetlands and the river, the landscape, the land that we inhabit along the rivers and the mountains. And when we talk about now political connectivity, economic connectivity, all of this infrastructure that is built in these terms is actually destroying the ecological connectivity. It is actually causing this rupture, which is very hard to bring back. And that is what is happening all across river basins in the world, and more particularly acute in this region in South Asia, where population pressure is also very high. This is again a very well-known picture which shows the hydropower dam projects in Arunachal Pradesh. And so many different dots that you see here are the proposed, and some of them are also half built. And so I would like to, but this is again just to show this geography is also a very contested geography. It is also contested between India and China. The boundary dispute is there, and therefore the securitization, the narrative that is proposed by the state is very, very closely linked to the degradation of our rivers and the threat that is actually upon our rivers in today's times. This is a picture from Guwahati city, which says that save Brahmaputra from Chinese conspiracy. So this is the kind of a national security framing that is actually being brought into the minds of people, by which we say that if China is building dams upstream, which it is doing so, we should also build dams on our side. We should basically imitate what China is doing on this side. So how does it actually make us any different from China? How this national security framing that overrides everything else. Like public hearings are not done well. Most of the public hearings actually do not go with the basic question that do you want the dam here or not, but actually they go and ask the question, how much compensation do you want? So it is actually not a public hearing, but it is actually a compensation hearing, at the end of the day. And environmental impact assessments, as you all know, has been also done very shoddily in this region. All of this actually is said that, you have to forego public hearing, you have to forego kind of environmental impact assessments, you have to forego the downstream impact assessments, all because there is a national security threat. Because all of these rivers are, now we have to build dams where dams are not seen as kind of, only electricity, hydropower generation, but also sovereignty markers on the rivers. And that makes it very, very problematic from a point of view of how we actually can confront such challenges. This is the landscape that if you go in Assam nowadays, you will actually see this kind of mega grids that are being laid out, where hydropower is being developed in Arunachal Pradesh, and then it will be evacuated to different major cities of India, where actually communities on the ground, when they say that we do not really need that kind of electricity for, we sleep as the sun goes down and we wake up as the sun comes up, and all of our rivers, we are going to lose our rivers actually, just because the major cities in different parts have this kind of a pattern of economic development, which requires all this kind of large hydropower, electricity generation, and this kind of capitalism that is built on destroying our rivers. I would like to draw your attention also to this one dam project, one of the few dam projects that is actually operational in Arunachal Pradesh. That is the Ranganadi dam project, which is the 405 megawatt dam project. And that actually on the downstream of the river, Ranganadi, it was promised to be a run of the river dam. But then later on, it was then changed into a inter-basin transfer dam, where the water will actually go into another basin on the adjacent kind of a river called the Dikrom. Many people on the downstream actually say that we have, the river has been stolen. There is a theft of the river. They have run away with the river. So that is actually the narrative that is there, because for 6 to 8 months of the year, many people in the downstream do not even see the river. It's only during the monsoon that when the dam gates are opened up, then they see a flash flood, and which destroys again some things, the livelihoods on the downstream. So that kind of, impacts that are already being seen. And there is also a very strong movement in Northeast India against dams. But then, this solidarity also has to go on much further than, because we already have seen the very negative impacts, as Ram also was saying earlier, that small dams also have very, very big impacts. And Ranganadi Dam is a very, very prime example of what a dam can actually do to the ecology around it. And many of the communities are rallying around these kind of examples. Small rivers like these in Arunachal Pradesh are also planned to be dammed. The big rivers such as this in Bhutan are being dammed in the Himalayan region. China is building dams, India is building dams, Bhutan is building dams. Cumulatively, all of these countries are competing against each other to destroy the Himalayas as ecological damage to the Himalayas. At the end of the day, the biggest casualty will be the Himalayan ecology as a whole. And that is what is basically this kind of race, this dam building race between these countries that is happening. This is the river Punatangchu, one of the streams of the Punatangchu, the Mochu actually, which again joins the Pochu and becomes the Punatangchu. And India is also helping Bhutan build dams on this upstream, which again in turn affect downstream Assam, which is again part of India. So in that sense, and how can we also see downstream Bangladesh? We cannot have a double kind of standards by saying that China is building dams and we are being affected, but India is also building dams, Bhutan is building dams, which is also going to affect downstream Assam as well as in Bangladesh. So in that sense, this kind of larger connections that we have to see across boundaries, the transboundary scale is very, very important to understand any impacts, because any intervention we do, any river system, it is bound to have impacts all across the system. And this is a picture of the Lower Subansiri hydropower project, which I think Rahi is also here, and Rabindranath is also here. I think this has been going stalled for many years, but then also now we have heard reports that the work is going on in the name of maintenance and all of that. And I think so there the downstream impact assessment also has not been done properly in this thing. There are small dams also being built, but they're very far and few. And Ram also had pointed out importantly that small dams can also cause damage, given the larger ecology. We have to also see on a case-by-case basis, as you said. This is the Siang River, a picture of the Siang River, where as many as 36 dams are being planned by the Indian government, and and free on the mainstream. And this is the free-flowing Siang as of now. And the whole development indicator of communities living along these rivers is narrated by these kind of pictures. These are the small bamboo bridges which are constructed by, and which are used by local communities to access the markets and hospitals, education. And many of these villages do not have proper education facilities, health facilities, and all of that. But still, we see big bridges being built here to carry these kind of turbines and big dam building machineries to different remote parts of Arunachal Pradesh. So you can see the contrast between this kind of bridges which local communities use and this kind of big bridges which are now being used to put in this kind of machinery in. So what we have to also see in a sense how these kind of small bridges are not being built which gives access to local communities to nearby health facilities. But these big bridges, big ticket projects, which wherever there is a dam built, you get excellent roads. But wherever there is no dam being built, you don't get roads. And these kind of small bridges, 1 kilometer bridge also takes 8 to 10 years to complete. So this wetlands also, this is a very important wetland called Avli, which was also affected by the All India spillage last year. And there is a lot of different concerns, that are happening in this region, and which communities are very, confronting on an everyday basis. But my point here is also that the Brahmaputra River has become a very speculative river, and a river only becomes speculative when there is a democratic deficit. And this democratic deficit is very, very important to underscore, because in such democratic deficit conditions where local communities cannot use their traditional knowledge and understanding of rivers which they have lived by for many years meaningfully to hold up again in terms of how big ticket projects are being planned in the region. They are not being able to participate in the democratic decision making. any decision making for on that thing. So in that sense, there is a very, very big democratic deficit which is being seen, and the Brahmaputra has become very speculative river, where speculation actually drives these big ticket projects through. And that is where we have to also see as to how communities deserve much more information and accurate information on the river, where their livelihood depends on those kind of rivers and wetlands, and where they have lived for centuries and decades over time. There is a lot of infrastructure being built. And the floods is also a very major concern that is now in Assam. This is a picture in Assam again. And erosion is also a very big issue, where intervention upstream actually can cause erosion downstream, and these are porcupine stills which are being used in Majuli Island to protect against erosion, the riverbank erosion. And fertile lands such as these are now increasingly being sandcasted by different patterns of river flows, and people such as her actually have to face this kind of losses increasingly over time. Jhum cultivation, Sudan cultivation in Northeast India has been a way of life, and now it has been proposed that palm oil cultivation is going to be brought in. This kind of cultivations which have actually, we have seen their kind of monocultures, monocropping plantations over time, which has also affected Kaziranga and like tea gardens already in different parts of Assam. But now palm oil will actually serve as a technical kind of biodiversity in the region. I would like to end with this picture actually this is a living root bridges in Meghalaya. And these bridges take a long time to build. The local communities build these bridges to connect to two different villages during the peak monsoon, where these streams are impassable. So the very important message that these bridges actually give is an intergenerational sharing, where this community which builds this bridge, the generation that builds this bridge will never get to use it. They are only building it for the next generation, and they very well know that they will not be able to use it in their own lifetime. So this kind of thinking is what we need. This kind of transboundary thinking, this kind of intergenerational thinking, not only in terms of space or time, but also in terms of generations. And that is only when we can actually offer a better future for our coming generations. Thank you.
थैंक यू। अगेन बहुत सारी बातें इसमें सामने आई, बहुत सारी इम्पोर्टेंट बातें इसमें सामने आई, और इसका एक तरीके से बहुत संक्षेप में इन बातों को लोगों तक पहुंचाना बहुत जरूरी है, लेकिन पूरा का पूरा ट्रांसलेशन करना भी अभी टाइम को देखकर मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा। लेकिन मैं बहुत संक्षेप में इनकी बात रखना चाहूंगी कि इन्होंने शुरू में हम लोगों को बहुत अच्छे मैप्स दिखाए, एंड आई मस्ट कांग्रेचुलेट यू for using this background. This is very lovely. I think it's Brahmaputra. It's very all the pictures were so I think thought provoking in the sense of thinking about the imagination of the river itself and how connected the whole system is. उन्होंने बताया कि कैसे नदियां एक्चुअल में नेचुरल बॉर्डर्स, जो हम बॉर्डर्स एज सच हम देखते हैं, वो नदियां ही बनाती हैं एक तरीके से हम देखें तो। लेकिन इसके ही चलते एक बहुत बड़े हस्तक्षेप के रूप में हम एक कनेक्टिविटी का प्रोजेक्ट भी देख रहे हैं, जिसमें इसकी जो एक पूरा माउंटेन्स, रिवर्स, सी, इसका एक जो जुड़ाव होता है वो कहीं ना कहीं इन हस्तक्षेपों की वजह से जो बहुत बड़े स्केल में कनेक्टिविटी जो प्लान हो रही है उसके एक तरीके से काफी ज्यादा इकोलॉजिकल हार्म साथ में ला सकती है। और उन्होंने उसी तरीके से बात किया कि जब हम डैम एक नेशनल इंटरेस्ट में बनाते हैं या फिर बॉर्डर्स को ध्यान में रख के बनाते हैं, तो कहीं ना कहीं ये बात भी सामने आती है कि हम नेशनल या स्ट्रैटेजिक इंपॉर्टेंस के चक्कर में ना तो हम उसकी अच्छी तरह से जन सुनवाई कर पाते हैं, और ना ही हम एक तरीके से जो एक पहले पर्यावरणीय आंकलन होना चाहिए प्रभावों का, वो भी नहीं करना चाहते हैं, और वो पूरे प्रोसेस को एक तरीके से छूट मिल जाती है कि ये तो राष्ट्र के हित में है, हम उस देश से बेहतर कर लेंगे अगर ऐसे ऐसे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हम अपने उसमें लेके आ पाएंगे। उन्होंने साथ में ये भी बात रखी कि कैसे काफी ज्यादा ये जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर या फिर जो डेवलपमेंट डैम्स के नाम पे होता है, वो लोगों की एक्चुअल लोकल जरूरतों को ध्यान में केंद्रित करके नहीं किया जाता, बल्कि एक तरीके से देखा जाए तो जो उनकी सुविधाएं हैं, जैसे एजुकेशन हो गया या फिर सेहत के लिए हेल्थ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हो गया, उसको देख के नहीं किया जाता। लेकिन ये भी एक सच्चाई है कि जहां जहां डैम बिल्ड होते हैं वहीं वहीं सड़कें भी आती हैं, तो एक तरीके से लोगों को उनकी सोच के साथ में एक तरीके से इस तरीके का खिलवाड़ होता है कि एक्चुअल उनको भले ही जिस चीज की जरूरत है वो ना मिले, बट कुछ ना कुछ इस ऐसी ज्योग्राफिकल कंस्ट्रेंट्स में कुछ ना कुछ वो इन चीजों से उनको लाभ देने का एक तरीके से सपना दिखाया जाता है। उन्होंने एक बहुत बड़ी बात ये भी कही कि ये कैसे एक तरीके से ब्रह्मपुत्र काफी काल्पनिक दृष्टि से देखा जाता है, इन द सेंस कि जो लोकल नॉलेज है, जो लोगों का एक्चुअल में ज्ञान है, जो उन्होंने बहुत जेनरेशन से इकट्ठा किया है, जो वहीं के लोग हैं, जो इन नदियों को बार बार यूज करते हैं, उस यूसेज से लोगों को मिला है, वो उसका कभी भी मतलब काफी ज्यादा नदी के बारे में जितने भी डिसीजंस होते हैं उसके अंदर उसको पार्टिसिपेट करने का मौका नहीं मिल रहा। एंड में उन्होंने बात रखी कि उन्होंने एक तरीके से लिविंग रूट ब्रिज का एक पिक्चर दिखाया था, जिसमें उन्होंने बात किया कि कैसे वो पहले की जनरेशंस बाद की जनरेशंस के लिए छोड़ के जाते हैं, तो इन अ वे दिस इज द बेसिस ऑफ सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट ऑफ इंटरजेनरेशनल इक्विटी। सो all these things were talked about, and I'm not talking about agriculture, monocropping and all other things that we talked about, sir. Maybe we can talk about it in the chat box and discuss more. Please use the chat box to discuss more things, but we are running out of time in a way. So I'll quickly ask our next participant, our next speaker, sorry. Oyin, can you please join us and can you present? So Oyin is a student, and she basically one second. Oyin basically I'm sorry, I can't I'll have to mute myself for a minute. Sorry, I'm back. Oyin is from Arunachal Pradesh, and she's pursuing her graduation in history from DNGC, and she's an activist on issues related to environment, and she's also a member of Fridays for Future. She works as a journalist with local news channel, and she's been working with several groups, but she's also been very active and very vocal on the Italian dam project, on the Italian hydroelectric project. We're so happy to have you here, Oyin. Please, over to you.
Okay, so am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for giving me this chance to speak on the rivers of Arunachal Pradesh, and especially about the Italian hydroelectric power project. So I guess I don't need to introduce myself anymore, as she had already told about me. So I will directly come here in come to the Arunachal Pradesh. We the people of Arunachal Pradesh are so thankful to the nature that we are surrounded by the nature, and we have lots of river here in Arunachal, which later on got with the Brahmaputra River. But like we have river like Siang River, and Subansiri, Kameng River, and many other river, etc. And most of the river flow into the Brahmaputra River, and most of the origin of the river is from glaciers and this all. Like it flow from China, and after that, as we Arunachal are near to China, and after that it come flowing here in Arunachal, and after Arunachal it flow here in Assam. So before moving on to the Italian hydroelectric power project, first I would like to tell you that we Arunachal people, like in this past few 10 years, we have seen lots of changes in our river. For example, like changes in pollution, our river have started getting polluted. Majorly, it is because of a lack of civic sense in between our people. Our people lack in civic sense, like they don't know how should we treat our river, how should we treat our nature, and many things. Like what our people do is that they throw their waste here and there, and yeah, apart from that, like we don't have any consciousness about the importance of river, the importance of having a clear river, and there's also a lack of awareness on river, as many people aren't aware about aware about the river. But you know what, we people, we Arunachal are so rich in like biodiversity, nature, and everything. And so our people think that we are still blessed with such beautiful nature, and we are surrounded by mountain. We have lots of river, water, and so like and so on. So we don't need to. So we don't need to act now. So they have such kind of thoughts, but the reality is that year by year, the people of Arunachal Pradesh are losing our nature. We are losing our mountains, our forests, our animals, and yeah, and even the river because of this modernization, unsustainable development, pollution, lack of civic sense, because of no awareness among the people. So coming on to the yeah, okay then, and here right now we are facing a big problem here in Arunachal, which most of the common people of Arunachal are not aware about, and that is of the Italian hydroelectric power project. So basically, Italian hydroelectric power project is based, this project is to be based in Dibang region of Arunachal Pradesh. Dibang is a district. We have under it, there is a lower Dibang Valley and upper Dibang Valley. So basically, it is in upper Dibang Valley. There is a village called Italian. So they have thought of, they have planned of, yeah. Okay, wait for a minute. So yeah, they have planned the project proposal in that in that Italian region, and they have planned it for 2 dams, and one is Dibang multi-purpose dam, which they have already started, and the another one is Italian hydroelectric power project, but it haven't started yet because of like it was pushed back to some kind of more study. And yeah, I heard that there were some kind of financial problem which the Jindal is facing and so on. And so basically telling you about the basic of this Italian hydroelectric power project. Yeah, the dam proposal is on Dir and Tangon, which is two tributary of the Dibang River. But and if this project will get success, and it will lead to falling of more than 4 lakh trees, and it will yeah, it will lead to falling of more than 4 lakh trees, and we will lose more than 150.8 hectares of land of forest, and we will lose many of our biodiversity, as we Arunachal Pradesh fall in the richest biodiversity of the Himalaya zone, and also it is the largest state in entire Northeast area. And yeah, and here many such kind of spaces are found, many such kind of endangered species are found which are not found in other part of the world. So it will be a great loss for the biodiversity as well as and for the people. So coming on to the people, I will first of all I would like to tell you that how this day, how this project will affect the people of Arunachal, especially the indigenous people of Dibang region, and they are known as Idumismi community. Idumismi is one of the least community in Arunachal Pradesh, and also they are in their tradition, and this community is in the way of extinction if they doesn't preserve their identity now. So you know what, we indigenous people are always related to nature, and we indigenous people have been always the biggest concern through our faith, through our religion, through our beliefs, through our tradition, and yeah, and everything. So this okay okay, let me tell you that we indigenous people are the front line to the impact of climate change. Whenever there is some kind of disaster or some kind of climate change, it directly impacts the indigenous people. And here in Arunachal, everyone come under this community or this indigenous community. So how, first of all, how the project will impact the local people of Italian. Basically they have to migrate in other part, maybe they have to migrate in cities, or they have to migrate in nearby village or in some other forest area by clearing the area. And you know what, while migrating, it's been a big problem for many people. Yeah, because while migrating, people used to face different kind of problem. Like there's many problem while migrating because of some food, and yeah, we need time to adjust ourselves in new place and this all. And so you might be knowing this kind of thing. And coming on to the people of Arunachal, how it will impact our Arunachal, as I have already told you that we indigenous people always rely on nature. And for us, nature, like for many non-indigenous people, they might see nature as a resource, and they might see nature as a way of development through which they can bring development, through like they may see nature as raw material. But for us, nature is the source of our life, our belief, our tradition, our faith, and everything depends on nature. So we have many festivals, for example, like Solung, Aran, Nyopum, and many other things, which is directly related to the nature. For example, like worshipping of agriculture. And we believe that nature, we believe that nature has spirit. We believe that mountain, river, stone, and forest, and everything have a spirit. And if we do some kind of bad thing with them, like misusing the nature, they will get angry, and yeah, they will show their they will show their other side. So what we used to believe is that, and even in Idumismi community, they believe tiger is an animal, is a common animal which is found in that project area. And the people of Idumismi believe that tiger and their ancestor have been best friend, so they believe tiger to be the best friend of their. So yeah, okay. Then coming on to how the wait, before that I want to tell you that. Before coming in here in Arunachal Pradesh, people need inner line permit, but because of this Italian hydroelectric power project, once when I did research in it, I saw that studies saw that building of this project will lead to more migration of outsider here in Arunachal, and that will lead to again some kind of CAB or CAA and many other issues which we Arunachal have already faced, and we have fight for it. So now moving on to the downstream people, okay, then to the downstream people are like the people of Assam, and you know that every year in Assam, like there is a huge uproar of flood, especially in the Brahmaputra region area. And we have here one dam, Nepko Ranganadi dam, and because of like there is around of I exactly don't remember, but there is around of 400 or else 500 megawatt. So even because of that, the downstream people of Assam, especially the people who reside near to Lakhimpur, had to face lots of floods and others problem because of that. Then so building of a Italian hydroelectric power project they will cause more flood in the downstream area, and you know what, Dibang, we not only Dibang, we Arunachal Pradesh lay in a seismic area zone where there is a huge uproar of earthquake. We are very sensitive to earthquake, earthquake and others disaster like landslide and this all. So earthquake, landslide, and everything may destroy the project like in coming future. And even once I saw a writer, I exactly don't remember his name, but I have read his research work. He told that building of this project will be a huge economy loss in the future because of the river of the Dibang totally paid upon the glaciers, and we know that because of global warming and because of climate change, glaciers have already made melt, and it still keep on melting. And by 2050, by 2050 the what they call what is it? By 2050, I exactly don't remember. Wait, I have to go to this page.
It's okay, Oyin, maybe you can share later in the chat box.
Yeah, sure. Okay, then later on I will share his article. Yeah, he have written the economic impact of the economic impact. So okay, right now I'm unable to find it. Okay, then later on I will share it. And also, as I have already told it, the people of Arunachal are so rich in ecology, and we have lots of different kind of animals here in Arunachal. And yeah, that project will directly impact the animal and also many plant flora and fauna here in our state. And it will not only impact our Arunachal, but also it will impact India and many other neighboring country as a whole, directly or indirectly. But you know what? Here in Arunachal, here the people of Arunachal are not much conscious about the Dibang project, about the Italian hydroelectric power project. They don't know what is this project and this all. And when I tried talking with some local indigenous people of Arunachal, and I told them about this and that kind of thing, many of them weren't aware about it, and many were the they had promised them to give money this and that, and the general company has to bring have promised to bring development for those people who reside around that project area. So many people aren't against this, and even here are some NGOs like which work for environment. They do support this Dibang region because they believe that we Arunachal Pradesh, like though we may be rich in nature, though we may be rich in environment, but we lack development here in our state. If you will visit Arunachal, then you will get to see very less industry, very less factory, very less dam, and this all because of which there is lack of employment and low economy. So our people believe that coming of this Italian hydroelectric power project will be a great help for our state in bring like it will bring employment for many unemployed youth, and also it will increase the economy of our state. So basically what they do is they aren't looking about the negative impact. They are just focusing on the positive thing of it. So like even last time some guy have asked me a question that like this he said me that we like Arunachal Pradesh have very low economy, but the project, but the Dibang project will might be a great help for our state to increase our economy. So then why are we opposing this them and such kind of question? But we have to see that we must not only see this from one perspective. We need to see it from every angle. We need to see that though it may have many positive impact, like it will boost our economy, employment, and it will bring many other like modernization and development here in our state, like school, hospital, etc., which they have promised. But in the coming days it will harm our environment, it will harm our ecology, it will harm our ecosystem, and it will like harm everything that is related to nature and even our indigenous people in the coming future. Okay, so
Yes, Oyin, maybe you can wrap up. We're running really short of time. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I guess like I've already reached to the time. Okay, yes. Okay, so that's much. Okay, so thank you so much.
Thanks, Oyin. It was really an important intervention there. Oyin ने Italian hydroelectric power project के बारे में बात किया, and वो बात कर रही थी कि कैसे दिबांग पर ये पूरा प्रोजेक्ट है, इसमें कैसे 100 हेक्टेयर से ज्यादा जंगल जा सकता है, और ये सबसे रिचेस्ट बायो डाइवर्सिटी में एक तरीके से ये प्रपोज है. और सबसे महत्वपूर्ण की बात जो उन्होंने कही वो इस बारे में कही कि कैसे यहाँ के लोगों के लिए प्रकृति, धर्म, संस्कृति, जीवन, ये सब बहुत क्लोजली नेचर से ही जुड़े हुए हैं. एंड शी आल्सो टॉक्ड अबाउट many other things, but for the lack of time, I think हम लोग chat box में बाकी सारे resources रख सकते हैं. Facebook, Instagram पे I think दिबांग रेजिस्टेंस करके एक पेज है, आप लोग चाहें तो उसको फॉलो कर सकते हैं. सेंचुरी एशिया का बहुत अच्छा इस पे पूरा का पूरा एक तरीके से पूरा कंपेंडियम है Italian hydroelectric project के लिए. So I would request people to go check that out. Manthan has also done a whole cost benefit analysis and किस तरीके की इसमें जो कॉस्ट इफेक्टिवनेस की बात की या फिर डेवलपमेंट की बात की, तो उस नजरिए से भी अगर हम उसको देखें, जैसे उन्होंने बोला कि एक दृष्टिकोण से देखने की जरूरत नहीं है, इसमें काफी सारी चीजों को ध्यान में रखने की जरूरत है. तो वो भी एक तरीके से रिपोर्ट अवेलेबल है, आई थिंक हिंदी में भी अवेलेबल है, आप चाहें तो उसको भी देख सकते हैं. Without any further ado, I would like to ask our next speaker, Manoj Mishra ji. Manoj sir, I would request you to please speak on the topic. And just to introduce him, I don't think he needs any introduction. He's a well-known environmental activist, a former IFOS, Indian Forest Services officer, and he's a convener of Yamuna Jiye Abhiyan. He's worked extensively on Yamuna River, and he's been really helpful in sort of inspiring young people to take up like various research projects, and he's helped extensively. Like his help cannot be underrated at all. So I would request you to please speak on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Avli. I don't know if there is really any time left because we are almost approaching 9 o'clock, and that is when the event is supposed to end. But I would very briefly touch upon few things that have emerged during this webinar, and I'm really grateful to the organizers that they found they asked me to be here. Although I'm the senior most of all the speakers that have spoken, maybe Ramji is closest to my age. But I'm overwhelmed. I really don't know what to speak because there is so much, such a wide range of things that have been spoken today that is astounding, so to say. And I'm really grateful to speakers like Mirza, Denmit, Jagriti ji, Ram, who have really enlightened us all. My one big lament here, if I'm allowed to begin with a lament, is that, you know, this webinar, such an important webinar, with so many important issues that have been underlined and highlighted. The maximum participation that we saw was just 30. In this entire world, are only 30 people interested in these issues. And this was the lament that Denmit made, that so few people are actually worried about Teesta. What happens to Teesta in Sikkim and rest of the country? Why is it this lack of interest in our own future? Rivers are our very future. If rivers die, we all die. It is as simple as that. The equation is very simple. But it's very unfortunate. I think it is also unfortunate. Maybe our own efforts have not been as good. And we should have got at least 100 participants. And the maximum we got was only 30. Sorry for being blunt there, but now I will talk of only two things today, which is not really relating to our work in Yamuna, because that work required far more time. I will speak about two things. Every speaker was lamenting about dams and how dams are actually damning our rivers. Every speaker spoke of that, except maybe Jagriti ji, because Jagriti ji, but she did speak about the barrage upstream of Komboh. So she also referred to them. Now, how are dams so bad? And are dams the key culprit for our rivers, and they are getting sick? Yes, there is a serious problem with dams that we humans create. We humans create on our rivers. But there are dams that nature has provided to us in South Asia. Because we get so much water during monsoon that we need that water to get stored. But the nature has already provided that. We are forgetting that. No one is talking about that. We have to huge, important natural dams. One are all our hills, they are dams. All our plains, they are dams. You see, all this water during the monsoon must percolate and must get stored underground in the hills to emerge as spring. That is the source of water for the hill people. And all this water must go underground and fill the aquifers in the plain. That is the source of our water. This country is a groundwater nation. We have been groundwater nation, we are groundwater nation, and we will always be groundwater nation. So all this about 4 lakh crore money that we have invested all these years since independence in creation of this 6,000 man-made dams which have killed our rivers. If all this money we had invested in securing our floodplains, in securing our aquifers, in rejuvenating our springs, those natural dams would have served us as well, actually far more, because then our rivers would still be running, our rivers would still be flowing, they would be healthy. We have actually forgotten our natural dams and focused only on the artificial man-made dams. And that has damned our rivers, and that is damning our economy and our country. That's one aspect. The other reason why only activists talk about dams, why the regulatory authorities do not talk about dams, because there is no regulatory authority that will talk about dams and the adverse impact of dams. That is the unfortunate part of our jurisprudence, our environmental jurisprudence. If you look at that, there is no act that deals with river as an entity. There is Water Act, there is Irrigation Act, there are Dam Security Act, but there is no national or even state act legislation that talks of river. The only agency which talks of river today is the Central Pollution Control Board. Now, the Central Pollution Control Board is meant only to measure the pollution level. And pollution, as we understand, is the least of river problem. It is the least of river problem. Pollution is an urban problem. Pollution is not a river problem. If a river is flowing, it knows how to take care of pollution, whatever may be the nature of the pollution. Let the river flow. A river must flow free. A river must flood free. And a river is as healthy as its sickest tributary. Just like a chain is as strong as its weakest link. Similarly, a river is as healthy as its sickest tributary. Now, these are the 3 broad principles. And look at our natural dams, make them safe. Look at the catchments, because catchments are the natural dams. Look at the floodplains, because they are part of the natural dam. And our problem relating to rivers will easily disappear. This is how we must address this. Even we activists, we must talk in this language. Yes, cultural impact and other impacts are important. They must come, they must figure in. But if we are talking of springs, that is culture. If we are talking of groundwater, that is culture. If we are talking of biodiversity, that is culture. So we have to address this in a manner which makes sense to people who are on the other side of the fence. Because who can say there are no natural dams? Can anyone deny the existence of a hill? Can anyone deny the existence of aquifers and the floodplains? They cannot. And the fact is, today, let me end with my final statistic. Today, 80% of drinking water comes from ground. Today, 70% of irrigation is from ground or the spring. Today, 90% of industrial water need is met from ground. तो अगर ग्राउंड ही हमारा लाइफलाइन है, ग्राउंड वाटर ही हमारा लाइफलाइन है, तो सरफेस वाटर में हम इतना क्यों फोकस कर रहे हैं? It is nothing but it is part of the political economy. Somebody has to make money, and that is why they are making these man-made dams. They are not to provide any succor or any help or any benefit to anyone else, but vested interest. Thank you very much. Sorry, I didn't have time to speak about Yamuna.
No, but this is really thought-provoking in the sense that whatever you talked about, how we are using our rivers. And just to add to that, I was listening to this webinar by Professor Sunil Amrit, and he spoke about the very same thing, that how we are looking at big dams. Maybe that's how we should look at how we are using our groundwater resources as well, because those things are very, very interconnected and nobody is really talking about the impacts. And बहुत करेक्टली आपने बोला कि जब हम सारी जरूरतें जो बड़े बांधों या फिर छोटे बांधों के लिए भी हम बोलते हैं कि इलेक्ट्रिसिटी के लिए यूज करना है, इरिगेशन के लिए यूज करना है, पानी पीने के लिए यूज करना है, जब वो सारी जरूरतें हमारे ग्राउंड वाटर से ही आ रही हैं, तो सरफेस वाटर में इतने सारे इंटरवेंशंस किस लिए? सो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट्स आपने रखे। एंड साथ में जैसे आपने बताया कि हम समझते ही नहीं है कि नेचुरल डैम्स एग्जिस्ट करते हैं। मतलब अगर हम एक तरीके से हाइड्रोलॉजिकल साइकिल को समझे या फिर हाइड्रोसोशल साइकिल, जैसे अभी आजकल रिसर्च में बात की जा रही है, उसके बारे में भी समझे, तो ये सब चीजें अवेलेबल हैं हमारे लिए, जिस दैट हम चाहते नहीं है कि उस तरीके से नेचुरल तरीके से चीजें हो, क्योंकि शायद उसमें कुछ लोगों का उतना ज्यादा फायदा नहीं होता है। एंड जो दूसरी चीज आपने बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट बताई, आई एम सॉरी मेरा इंटरनेशनल इंटरनेट थोड़ा अनस्टेबल है, मैं वीडियो ऑफ करूंगी अपना। जैसे आपने बताया कि रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटी नदियों के लिए नहीं है, वो भी काफी ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है। इसको भी कहीं ना कहीं हमें इसके बारे में भी एक बड़ी चर्चा करने की जरूरत है। एंड again, like all the things that you talked about, securing floodplains, talking about hills as reservoirs, aquifers as reservoirs, which they are, I think बहुत ही ज़्यादा interesting और thought-provoking ये session था, and we're so in a way grateful that this came at the very end, so that we could sustain this conversation, and we can now come to the part where we discuss and open it for discussion from our participants. So I'm seeing in the chat box there are important comments by Suhas Kolekar, Praveen Rai. There are also comments by Chhatridhara Bhai. Maybe आप में से कोई अगर अपने आप को अनम्यूट करके अपनी बात रखना चाहे तो वो रख सकते हैं। The session is open for all participants now. If you want to discuss anything, put across any point that you think, you can unmute yourself, you can start your video.
हेलो, समय बहुत ज्यादा हो गया इसलिए मैं रिलक्टेंट थी, लेकिन मनोज जी ने जो बात कही वो बिल्कुल सही है। अभी महाराष्ट्र में भी एक रिवर्स के बारे में बहुत अच्छी सीरीज चल रही, तो संडे को एक्चुअली 2 बजे वो खत्म होती है और शाम को फिर से जुड़ना मुश्किल हो जाता है। ऑल द सेम, आई वाज जस्ट पॉइंटिंग आउट टू the way in which the hills and mountains are also being destroyed, as we are seeing in Kerala, which is making things more serious. So Manoj ji, bring that also when you talk anywhere else. Thank you. Avli, you are mute.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for your time, Manoj. We're really sorry that we're running really late on the schedule. So how do we do it, Meera, Kat, anyone, do you want to take this thing forward? Do we have time for any more questions? Do we take questions from the chat box? What do you suggest?
Maybe, I mean, if others do not have any comments at this stage, we can get final comments from Denmit, Mirza and others who are there, our speakers. Some of them have left, but some of them are still there. So maybe we can get final comments from them.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll invite, maybe we'll go like in the reverse order. So let me just see who's there.
Yeah,
Oyin is
Mirza ji
there.
or Mirza ji is there. Oyin has just left.
Okay. Mirza ji, will you please speak concluding remarks?
Yeah, thank you. I really, it was a good discussion today, and yeah, as many of you have pointed out, we need to actually carry these conversations and the dialogue, further on, in a sense, what we actually see today on the ground is that sometimes the distance is growing actually. So between communities, as Bhai was also saying that we have been divided into upstream communities and downstream communities, and in the chat box. So that is very, very true. And now it is kind of dividing us between these kind of movements, and we need to actually bring that kind of a connection and look at the river not only within our own limited boundaries, but in a larger basin scale. The basin scale understanding has to be underlined, and then only we will be able to see the larger picture. I think the alternative worldviews and the worldviews that communities have are very, very important, and they need to be documented also. This indigenous knowledge about rivers needs to be documented, and that also needs to come up very prominently in our conversations and debates, and inform our debates. And also on the other aspect is that we need to also see kind of how we can also make the information on rivers more transparent, more democratic. And this environmental democracy that we talk about has to be much more meaningful and on the ground. In a sense, when Yamuna, Manoj was speaking about groundwater, we also have to look at the sky rivers as well. The what we call the monsoon patterns and the rainfall patterns that are becoming so very erratic now. So it is not that only we have to look at the surface water, we have to look at groundwater, but also on the sky rivers, as we say. Rainfall patterns which are becoming so erratic now and causing a lot of damage. And these patterns, as they are changing, and when you had opening remarks also had spoken about Delhi airport and all of that, this is now actually becoming so, we are constructing a risk, actually. We are infrastructuring risk on our landscape. And that actually, the communities have to live under the shadow of this risk for long. And that is what actually we have to actually confront. And that only can happen through conversations, through dialogue, and reviving the traditional dialogue mechanisms, which actually can take it forward, and community understandings, so that we do not lose them, and also can be used to inform modern governance systems. We can take examples from the Mekong River Basin as well, where community civil society has been very active, and we also spending quite a lot less actually on research on the river basin. without properly, understanding the river basin, we are intervening into it. So that is very, very crucial importance. We also have to look at that. So I think I will just stop here, and maybe if there are any other questions for you. But otherwise, it is a fascinating discussion, and we need to keep such discussions going on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was so informative, and that was so I could actually resonate. That spoke to me in many ways. But at the same time, I think it's really interesting for our audience as well to know about all the things that you talked about. And there are a lot of resources. I would also urge people to go and search for Mirza Zulfikar Rahman's articles. He's written beautifully in EPW. He has also articles in Scroll, I think. Please go ahead and read those things and help us understand and help other people also understand about all these issues, which are really important. And he very beautifully linked it to uncertainty and manufacturing of risk, and how people will only ultimately will have to live under all these shadows of risk. So I think that's really a key message that we get from this webinar, and he's articulated it so beautifully. I will now invite Denmit to put across her concluding remarks. Denmit, over to you.
Yes. So I think it was such an insightful evening, and I got to learn so much from all our resource people. And I know it is just the beginning for me, and there is a long way to go. I would like to conclude by pointing out, I think, two important factors that are very important in any kind of movement. And first will be the inclusion of younger generation, like people like us in our teams, to take up, to study about it, and to not be afraid to voice out their grievances. And yes, so the younger generation should definitely participate and not just wait for people who have always been doing that, because there will come a time when unfortunately they will pass away, and then we will have to take the lead then. So it is good to start early, and the younger generation definitely should take over. Another point is the inclusion of women. I think because we live in a patriarchal society, or also because our women are too afraid to speak. I don't know why. Maybe they feel that they might speak something wrong, or I think because they've never been heard, they assume that they are not able to speak. But then I think they should definitely be given a platform to voice out their opinions, because I think it is very important for a woman to speak, because it is a woman that gives birth to the future generations, and she is the storyteller in the house, and she is the one who tells these folk tales and carries on the legacy forward to the future generation. So inclusion of the youth and women especially need more attention and more important. That is all. It was a wonderful evening, and it was very, very insightful and very informative. Thank you.
Thank you, Denmit. You gave us so much hope, and thank you for saying everything that you've said. And actually, my friend Akanksha is here in the audience, and she's joined. She's a researcher. She's a road ecologist with WII. And yesterday I shared the poster on my Instagram, and she talked about how this panel was very, very gender balanced and region balanced. And she was really happy to see the sort of diversity that we have in the panel today. And Denmit also talked about how sort of gender and the question of gender is also important when we talk about environment, and why women are not speaking up the way they should. So I think thank you for adding those important points, and thank you for encouraging us. And जैसा आपने बोला कि youth को और ज़्यादा involve होना चाहिए, I think you are giving us all so much hope, so that more people can join us in many of these struggles. So thank you so much. I think Sorry. We still have 10 more minutes, but I think we can end. And if there is anything, Meera or Kat, like, would you like to add something? Do you think, is there anything missing? It would be also nice to hear from you what you think about the webinar.
Yeah, no. Towards the end, I think we can just wrap it up. Should we? Maybe you can say your concluding comments, and then one of us will just add a bit. And
Right. I think today's session was, as I said, like starting from the panel itself, बहुत ही ज़्यादा एक तरीके से balance panel था, जिसमें महिलाएं और पुरुष दोनों इक्वल उसमें मौजूद थे, and काफी ज़्यादा interesting, बहुत ज़्यादा age wise also it was a balanced panel. We have a lot of young speakers in the panel, which brought so much hope, as I was saying earlier. And I think overall, many important issues of ecology, diversity, infrastructure, inclusion, environment, democracy, use of indigenous knowledge, and how we can make and sustain and think and study these topics. I think we got to learn a lot about it. Just to translate it in Hindi, I would just add that बहुत सारे important मुद्दों पे हमने बात की, जिसमें हमने ना केवल पर्यावरणीय मुद्दों पे बात की, but also हमने biodiversity, infrastructure, और बहुत सारे अहम मुद्दे जैसे कि gender और बाकी inclusion कैसे हम एक तरीके से सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट इन ट्रू सेंस देख सकते हैं, एंड क्या स्ट्रगल्स हैं रिवर्स के अराउंड, और क्या इम्पोर्टेंट की इमर्जिंग इश्यूज हैं, उसके बारे में भी हमें जानने को मिला. आई थिंक इट वाज रियली इंटरेस्टिंग एंड इंसाइटफुल फॉर मी टू. And thank you for making me a part of it as well. I would also like to thank all the participants, especially the participants who are here till the end of the session. I think thank you so much for your time. We really value it. And over to you, Meera or Kat, whoever want to go.
yeah, so thank you, Avli. To begin with, thanks, of course, to you for moderating this and holding all of this together for almost 2.5 hours, and also translating constantly, and to friends who have also been translating in the chat box, so that friends can access the conversation both in English and Hindi. So yeah, of course, thanks for that. To all our speakers, some of who could not stay for the entire period, but nevertheless, their interventions and their presentations were very, very significant. And there was, in fact, a lot of specificity and diversity in the kinds of issues that they brought in the past 2.5 hours. So thanks for that. And somewhere that also connects to, I mean, the quest for speakers that we're constantly looking at as part of Grounded Voices. So therefore, we have these interstate, intergenerational, also transboundary in some ways, presentations that have come in. And it's important because all of these connections are very much, present in the real world. So it's important that they inform our conversations, and it is these conversations that can maybe then also inform further strategy and collectivization. So the whole effort of Grounded Voices is also one small such intervention. It's not an attempt in isolation, but part of our collective attempt to listen to each other, understand from each other's struggles much more, and build and collectivize. तो बहुत धन्यवाद सभी वक्ताओं को. Exactly like how Avli said, अभी तक जो आखिरी तक जो जुड़े हैं और जो साथी फेसबुक पर भी आज के इस एपिसोड को देख रहे हैं, हम सभी जानते हैं कि थोड़ा सा, क्योंकि अभी लॉकडाउन खुल गया है, तो जूम फटीग भी है साथियों में, और बहुत सारे लोग अलग अलग प्रकार के काम में भी लगे हुए हैं. बट इस बीच भी हमें ये भी जरूरी लग रहा है कि इस प्रकार के संवाद को भी जारी रखें. इट्स इम्पोर्टेंट टू कीप continuing to engage on many of these questions as well, because there are any number of struggles, any number of issues that deserve solidarity, that need more attention. So any platform that can lend a little bit of more attention to many of these issues, or even reaffirm, ऐसा नहीं कि हम ये बहुत सारी चीजें पहली बार बात कर रहे हैं. We of course keep speaking of or keep interacting with many of the groups as well, but it's important also keep reaffirming and bringing them back into the public domain, and to keep that whole memory and the conversations alive. So तो ये उसी दिशा में ये कोशिश है, और ये क्योंकि 6 हफ्तों का एक सीरीज है, तो हिस्सों में भी हो रहा है, टुकड़ों में अभी तक 2 हफ्तों का हुआ है. एंड our attempt is also that comrades from other states also, I mean, participate not just when their states are present, but also listen to other states, because after all, I mean, the questions of rivers are so deeply intertwined, right? I mean, the macro politics and the economics is also connected. So thanks to all of you. Next week, we hope to have some more eastern states only, basically, but we'll try and cover rivers in the context of Odisha, Jharkhand, Bihar, and yeah, some of these states. So looking forward to seeing all of you next Sunday, 7 p.m. Thanks to the entire team which helped put together this series, and which also included poetry and also going to questions of gender and all of that. So yeah, thank you so much. Zindabad.
Yes, I'll add that I went back and I saw the first session in which there was a song, and that was like really nice to see. And that's how I got to know that ये title उस song पे based है. So thank you for organizing it. And yeah, let's end it.
Yeah. Thanks, comrades.
Thank you.